Hello, my name is Chagai Levi. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Iluria. I started Iluria based not only on my professional experience of many years holding multiple C-level positions in the high-tech industry, but also as a father of four kids. All four of them are diagnosed with ADHD, with and without hyperactivity. And the actual motivation to establish Iluria started from the need to measure or objectively measure the impact of the medications, because we very quickly learned that on one hand, the medical side is a crucial part in a proper treatment protocol. But then again, when it comes to the pharma, it's a pure guessing game. So this is how we came up to establish Iluria. So again, we're operating in the mental and behavioral health ecosystem. The initial indication we're focusing on is ADHD. As I mentioned, the main element we're trying to tackle is the fact that everything is trial and error based. There is no objective data, a lot of back and forth to the clinic with multiple associated problems, specifically in ADHD. The compliance seems to be a major challenge, but alongside with the compliance, multiple, as I mentioned, labor-oriented processes, coverage mechanisms you cannot really utilize. So again, it's a mess. And just to emphasize it again, we are not interfering with initial diagnosis, totally focused on the rest of life with all of the associated problems, as I mentioned, cost, adherence, and so on. And the basic notion that we are deploying is the connected patient notion, which we are deploying for mental health and initially for ADHD. The solution is agnostic to wearables. This is the initial version of the solution. Currently, we are gathering data from Samsung Galaxy wearables, but again, the basic notion is to be agnostic. And then, if I may summarize it, we basically gather 1 week's worth of data and then analyze the patients often versus on meds in a manner that actually correlates with the clinical gold standard, with the DSM-5, multiple outputs. Typically, the main one, as you can see on the right-hand side, is showing on an average day what is the overall compounded pattern or change statistically as a means, as a proxy for the impact and the duration of the impact. We completed actually quite a few studies, both showing the correlation to the binary nature of the gold standard, above, below 6 ADHD symptoms, and then enhancing to actually create the patterns. Looking at the ecosystem, multiple stakeholders, in a sense, all of us are suffering from the mess and from the very low compliance and lack of objectivity. Looking at the mid-run or maybe even long run, there are two major stakeholders. Obviously, pharma is a major stakeholder. Together with that, we think there is a lot of potential looking at the health plans and the quality measures they need to comply with. But the initial get-go will be with providers. The initial go-to-market actually will be with small private clinics. There are actually quite a few coverage mechanisms we can use pre and post FDA clearance. It's most likely that we will initially focus on the RTMs, because you simply don't need to be an MD to bill, so it's very effective to use it. And then looking at the roadmap, again, the initial get-go will be with small private clinics and then enhancing it to additional indications. Obviously, initially, looking at indications in which patients are actually using ADHD stimulants and then expanding beyond that. As I mentioned, down the road, we will obviously reach out to the more of the strategic players in the sense of either health plans or obviously pharma. Again, I mentioned the focus. So pharma, we are not diagnosing, we are not trying to cure ADHD. We are totally focused on the mostly manual, in all of the cases, still subjective processes. And basically speaking, this is where we are, like the classic seed stage position. As I mentioned, we have the initial version of the solution, which is already working. We have a couple of patents. The ADHD patent was already approved in the US like a couple of years ago. Currently, we're raising $500,000 to launch the initial commercial version of the solution in like half a year. As I mentioned, initially with a handful of private, more agile clinics. And all in all, we established a 2 years roadmap for commercialization as a medical device and also adding additional indications. This is us. Thank you so much for listening.